shoot a shot. I'm coming in hot. Coming in hot. Shoot that. Hey, why not? Yeah, coming in hot. Coming in hot. Just coming in hot.
Well, my name's Lacey, and currently I am a photographer in Salem. I travel all over for photos, though. I specialize in families and branding and weddings. So with that, I get to do a lot of traveling, which is like the best part of my job.
Where's the furthest place you have traveled thus far?
A few years ago, I got to go to Switzerland with my
Ooh.
best friend for an elopement, and that was just like the most beautiful place I've ever seen.
Sweet.
And then just a couple months ago, I was in Cancun for a wedding.
Rough.
And got to go out to Utah a couple weeks ago for a big branding shoot for doTERRA essential oils.
Oh.
So that one was really fun. Yeah, I get to go to a lot of fun places and do a lot of fun stuff. And but like the bread and butter of my business is family photography.
Okay.
So shooting everything from newborns and maternity, before that, maternity to newborns to just milestones that kids have. People want first year photos. They want birthday photos every year, graduations and family photos. And I've even shot some things that are not so fun to shoot, like funerals or end of life stuff. And those ones are a lot harder to shoot, but I know that they mean so much to my clients. So I'm always gonna, suck it up and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I know that how much those mean to a person at the end of the day. So
yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Full-time photographer. I'm also opening a couple of businesses in Arizona. That's going to be within the next 6 months to a year, franchising some stuff out there. So that's kind of going to be my next adventure, but I'll always do photography. I always have done photography. I'll always fall back on that. It's something I'm really passionate about. I'm really good at it. And it's kind of also evolved into education a little bit, like mentoring other photographers and hosting workshops and educating people on the business side of it and how to run it as a business, because you can be really, really skilled at photography, but if you don't know how to run a business and you don't know how to work with people and you don't know how to, keep your books straight and keep track of your billing and stay on top of your emails and your inquiries and build a good website, then at the end of the day, you don't have a business. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like two parts. Some people are really good at business and they're really not good at the creative photography side of it, or they're really great with like the technical side of photography and they can run a business. But when it comes to prioritizing things and staying on top of schedules and being a people person and interacting with their clients, that's where they might be lacking. So I mentor a lot of photographers on how to kind of perfect all of those areas to have a really well-rounded business, because I've learned from scratch. I taught myself before there was Instagram, before YouTube was a thing, before, you could just do mentorships with people. I started doing photography when I was in high school, which seems like forever ago. And like things have come so far since then. Now it's just so easy to access education, or, people have the means to just go buy an expensive camera and then they think, oh, well, now I can be a photographer. Now I can charge people. But there's really so much more that goes into it. And a lot of people will start out and say, I got a new camera. I'm going to go shoot a bunch of photos and charge a bunch of money to do this. And then they get overwhelmed. They're in over their head and they're like, wait, what am I doing? I don't know how to keep up with the business side of this. Or now I'm starting to not deliver my best to my clients because I'm not bringing my best because I'm overwhelmed. So it takes a lot of practice and a lot of trial and error, and a lot of education to kind of have a really successful business. So I've learned all those things over the last, 15 years of doing this. So
yeah, that piece of the business side, I would say, especially for creatives that are so strong in that creative part, can be very difficult and challenging of the other part of running the business and scheduling and books and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's very valuable. I've seen that a lot with contractors, which like they can be great at the trade, but then it's really difficult, the paperwork side and whatnot. So yeah, that's cool that you'll mentor and show all those facets of running a business. I once bought a fancy camera. Actually, Daniel he shoots with Sony back when Sony was kind of becoming super cool and before everyone was getting Sonys. I bought one and thought, oh, this will be easy because I have the Sony A whatever. And it wasn't so easy. And there's a lot more to it with all the settings and whatnot. So,
yeah, I've learned that. I started as a Nikon shooter, and I shot Nikon and went through a couple different bodies of Nikons. And then when I realized that I'm shooting a lot and this is a really heavy camera, I was like, I have to find something lighter. And that's when I got into Sony. That was probably like 2018. And yeah, I love Sony. It's like unparalleled.
Yeah.
So, but not to get too technical on everything. You know, you can have a great camera, but you also have to have a great mindset. You have to have you have to be a people person. You have to be able to like check your bad day at the door and really show up for your clients. And I think that's like my superpower. So like I can be having a really bad day, or like, you know, like somebody could have just really said something that rubbed me the wrong way, but I'm still going to show up for my clients and show up my best. And they're never going to know anything was wrong because they are paying for my best work. And I've just learned to show up as my best self for my clients. And I think they really appreciate that. And that's carried me so far, you know, for so long. So that's what I'm going to keep doing.
I think that's important. I know it probably feels like a brag, but I think that's important to say. For example, the guy that was sitting there on Monday when we got done, he had said to me, he was like, I think your superpower, Trav, is making people feel comfortable sitting here sharing stuff with you. And I've really thought about that, you know, and I think sometimes it's difficult to like, it's almost easier to talk about failures than like the good stuff, and feeling like, am I bragging or whatnot? But I appreciated that comment. And, you know, I've really thought about that. I'm like, yeah, I take pride in that. And no matter what I have going on, when you show up, you know, I'm trying to make this all about whoever's sitting here and listening well to them and having a good dialogue with them, and which is very important, which he said was, he thought my superpower. And, you know, you're saying, here's a part of my business. Like, yeah, there's the technical aspects of the equipment and whatnot, and then how to position them and the lighting and whatnot. But then there's also you and what you're bringing to it. And, you know, I don't know, that could get overlooked or not talked about, but I think, I don't know, that might be as important as the other stuff.
Yeah, it's really important to me, and it might not be so important to my clients, or they might not realize the importance of it because it is such an oversaturated market right now. There are so many people who are really talented photographers in all different price points all over, you know, even in this community alone. Like, I have so many friends who are photographers. So everybody though brings a different experience to the table. So I think that that's where your clients like trust you and want to come back to you, is once they've worked with you specifically and they're like, okay, we vibe, or I really like what, you know, how she made me feel during this session. That's when you get all of your return clients, and you get that word of mouth recommendation, which that's how my whole business started. Because like I said, I was doing this before social media was really a big thing. So I didn't ever really intend on this becoming as big as it was for me, or as successful as it was for me. It kind of just became a thing, and I just rolled with it. And I was like, I'm really good at this. I really enjoy it. And it's always evolving and changing. And yeah, it just became such a lucrative thing. And now here I am doing it full time, and I love it. So
and you saying that it just became a thing. Take us back, and how did it just become a thing?
So I never intended on doing this full time and having this become a thing. My career back when I finished college was law enforcement. I thought that was what I was going to do for my whole career. I was going to retire from that and, move up in rank and experience different things and do different things with that. And a little over 5 years ago, that was taken from me. I did not give it up voluntarily. And I went through a whole situation with the city that I worked for where I dealt with retaliation and ended up having to file a lawsuit for whistleblowing. And because of all of that, I feel like I was just set up on this track to be where I am now. But having not gone through that, I wouldn't be where I am now. Back then, when I was going through all of that, I thought like, this is the worst thing that could be happening to me. There goes my identity. I was so rooted in that career and in that lifestyle that I thought there's nothing else for me. What else am I going to do? That's what I went to college for. That's what I spent so much time, hundreds of hours volunteering for. That's what I gave up time with my kids when they were really young for. Missed out on a lot of family stuff because of that. And I thought that was the end all be all. I never would have just left that on my own to pursue something like this. And when that was essentially taken from me, I had to come to the harsh realization that it's putting me in such a dark place and I don't know who I am without this. And what am I going to do? I kind of had to pull myself out of that and just realize that doesn't define me. That's not who I am. Now I need to rediscover who I am, what makes me happy, what is going to, sustain me in the long run career-wise. And I just didn't realize at the time that wasn't it. But now looking back on that whole situation, I'm so thankful that I did go through all that because it really provided me with such a well-rounded outlook on life and on other people and their situations. And knowing what I went through is so relatable to other people and what they're going through has really just helped me to help other people further. It's helped me to build a lot of relationships and a lot of connections with people and helped new clients find out who I am and to kind of look at me oh, she's human. She went through this and that and we're going through something and I think we'll click with her, and then they want to hire me and then we become friends. So it's opened a lot of doors. And I think that at the time, you feel like you're just stuck in such a dark place and you don't really know where do I go from here. And it was just kind of like an epiphany. One day I was like, okay, I'm right in the thick of this litigation with the city. I am feeling like I don't know what I'm going to do with myself for my career, and I need to just pull myself out of this and just start making moves. So I went to work for a private investigations company, and we primarily did criminal defense work. So big difference than working as a cop, going and working for defense attorneys, right? You're like, how could you do that? That's the other team. But to me, it was all the same game essentially.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's what it was to me. It was a game, and it was discouraging. It's so sad to see how broken the system is and how so many people from all different walks of life get caught up in things that they shouldn't be caught up in, who don't get cut fair deals, who end up, taking plea deals because they're scared of what the system's going to do to them if they try to fight it. And everything from the criminal aspect of that all the way back down to where I was at with just the employment aspect of it, being scared to blow the whistle, essentially being scared to right a wrongdoing because you're fearful of the consequences of that. And none of that is right. None of that is fair. And it was just discouraging to see that the system is so broken along every step of the way. And, when I was a cop, it was all, thin blue line, everything, blue blood, this, we're all a team. It's us versus them. And once that was taken away from me and I realized how much bigger that is and how many layers there are to that and how that's not the end all be all, my eyes were just like totally open to the corruption and the chaos and the sadness that is that whole system and how it just can rake so many people across the coals. And it's discouraging, but I had photography at the same time to fall back on, which is so beautiful and so rewarding. And I get to work with people usually when they're at their best, to where my other jobs, I was working with people when they were at their worst.
Yeah.
So I've really gotten to see like a lot of different people's really, really highs and really, really lows. And I've also been at my lowest and at my highest over the last 5 years. So all of that to say that going through that really dark time really brought me to where I am now. And right now I'm just like the happiest I've been. You know, I'm doing what I want to do. I'm living life intentionally. I am doing what I feel called to do. I make time for my kids, like as much time as necessary. I get to be at all of their things all of the time. And I know that a lot of people aren't that fortunate, and a lot of people feel stuck in their career that they're in, and they feel like that's their identity and they're nothing without that. But I just hope that people know that they are so much more than their career. Like, your job doesn't define who you are. At the end of the day, if you think that that's true, then you have some soul searching to do, because someday that job can be taken from you.
Yeah.
And then what? Then what are you without that, you know? So right now, just like living life intentionally is...
I got a question.
Yeah.
It's because I've been thinking about this. A lot of the stuff I've been posting is clips of people talking about their passion. And I've even been thinking about it for me. And today, like we were talking earlier, I got a text that was encouraging for me about someone watching it and reaching out to that person and saying nice things about them. But I was thinking about the question. You made the comment, I feel like it's my calling. Mm-hmm. And I've been thinking, what are the things that tell you that it's your calling?
So just the feedback that I get from my clients, you know, like, they'll tell me like, oh my gosh, you know, I appreciate these photos so much. This is just what we needed. Or we haven't done family photos in so long. Haven't realized how much my kids have grown. All the way up to like the really deep stuff where it's like, you know, I did end of life photos for a family whose daughter was dying. And at the time of the session, I didn't know that. They thought that I knew that, but I guess I just didn't do my, you know, social media digging enough to realize that. And I got to treat her like anybody else. And I got to like make her feel comfortable and make them feel comfortable in front of the camera and give them like this precious gift of family photos so soon before she passed. And that like really stuck with me. Like, someday these photos are going to be all that you have left of somebody. And that's really inspired me to have a really authentic approach with my photography, not making things so forced, not making them out to be something that's just going to look good on Instagram. Mm-hmm. You know, I want them to be authentic to this family. I want them to be meaningful to this family. I want them to feel like them, and I want them to feel like their best selves. So I think I'm able to really bring that out in people, especially when it's like one-on-one sessions, whether we're doing like a fitness photo shoot or a boudoir photo shoot. Sometimes it's because people went through something so deep and now they feel great and they're at their best and they want to show that off, but they still have those insecurities that creep in, and going and getting like half naked in front of somebody in front of a camera is intimidating. Like, no, people are like, I don't want to do that, you know, but like my clients are so courageous. They want to do it and they're nervous as heck, but they come in and I get to like, you know, be their hype girl and make them feel like their best selves, because at that moment they are, and that's what they want to show off. And
that's, boudoir and fitness photos. That's a good perspective to what you had to say about that. 'Cause I think when seeing photos like that, they can easily be judged on the why the person is doing it. Mm-hmm. And I would probably say, I always think too far into stuff as well. So I would probably be guilty of that as well. Mm-hmm. But I never thought about the perspective of that person maybe they lost weight, or maybe they hit a goal, and they're just proud for themselves, and like that's a way of showing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than I don't know, doing it for some kind of bragging, right, or whatnot. It's like they reached. It just speaks to, you don't know what people's journey is, and I bet if each one of us could hear each person's journey, we'd probably be like, yeah, go do that boudoir shoot, go do that fitness shoot, because we see, all that work you put in to get there. Like, yeah, I'd be proud too.
You only see like the beauty, you don't see the struggle.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that everybody has gone through something. And even if they look great, they might not feel great. You can be physically fit, but if you're not like spiritually sound and mentally fit, then you're still losing.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, I feel like I get to bring out the best in people when they're showing up with their best, and I get to like bring that out even more. And then they get their photos and they're like, oh my gosh, wow. Like, I didn't even think I looked this good. I feel so good about this. And they're just so thankful. Even on shoots where I think it's just something really basic, and then I get the kindest messages afterwards of people just like so shocked at how well they turned out or how good they look. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad that I got to make them feel like this,
Yeah. So
going from, having a career where I was meeting people at their lowest, it was always kind of my creative outlet to like see people at their highest. So I always made time to still do photos. Even when I was working as a cop, I would do them on my days off or on my weekends off. And then it just kind of evolved into this full time. And I never would have thought that, oh, here I am, I do so many shoots a year. I make a full-time living off of it, and I'm killing it, and I love it. And I get to travel to all these cool places, and people like trust me with the biggest day of their lives. And, some pretty tough moments too, people trust me with, like the end of life stuff. That stuff's hard. That's really hard to shoot. It's really hard to go back and like spend hours editing those photos and looking at like how emotional everyone was. You just kind of like have to relive that over and over until you're done editing the session. But at the end of the day, it's like, it makes me appreciate life so much, like getting to see people at all these stages in their lives. And then I get to follow them on social media and watch what they're doing. When I got to have like a glimpse into their personal life and doing these photos with them, it just makes me appreciate life and like how fragile it is so much more. And just to go back on what you had mentioned about, seeing somebody post like a sexy photo on Instagram or something. It's like, yeah, but you don't know what that person had to go through to get there. Like physically, yes, but also mentally, because you have to be pretty courageous to like, post a picture in lingerie or in a bikini or in a small pair of shorts, like trying to show your abs off or something, like
I've never done it.
It takes a lot of work. It's kind of scary. So you just go to appreciate the story behind the beauty that you see. You get to appreciate their struggle too. And I think it just gives me like a really, really good, well-rounded view of people and their stories and their struggles. And then just a new appreciation for life, like little things in life. Yeah.
During your transition from what you thought you would always do with being a cop, earlier we talked that like there was a dark time after that, and like your identity was so wrapped up in that, and it's what I always thought I would do. I think that is important for people watching, listening, that might be in a dark time right now, understanding that in my life, people I talk to, almost every time it seems like something beautiful comes out of that. It seems like down the road, eventually, there's something useful from that. Now with you have people that reach out to you that are going through something similar, whatnot, and you would not be able to have that conversation and relate to them and be able to give that kind of advice if you didn't go through it. And it's so difficult when you're in it to say, okay, this really sucks and this is really difficult, but one day there'll be a purpose out of this, and one day I'll be able to use this. But just trying to give encouragement for people that are in tough spots right now, that it won't last forever, and there will be something beautiful come of it. And most of the time, it's stuff that we couldn't imagine. You could not imagine living the life you're living now back when you were policing. All the people you get to meet, the places you get to go. You talked about, I make my own schedule. I'm choosing who's in my life, who's not. Like, and you wouldn't even been able to imagine that. Had that tough. And a lot of times I've found that when we are stuck on something like that, and there's this other door we would never walk through, it's almost like we have to be forced through it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we wouldn't walk through it on our own. You would have never
probably
given that up.
No, I wouldn't have, because I worked so hard to get to it. And it was, you know, I just don't quit things. I don't give up on things until I'm finished. And to me, finishing that would have been retiring from that. And it was really hard because it was like, I was so blindsided when it happened, and I was so shocked, and I just couldn't believe that it was happening to me, because I thought, you know, cops are good. There's no way that somebody would screw me over like this. There's no way that somebody would lie the way they are lying and be trusted to be wearing a badge. And I can't believe I ever looked up to this person who is now doing all these horrible things, you know? It was just so discouraging, and it made me really take a step back and like reevaluate who I was and who I thought I was and what I thought that profession was. And it just made me realize, like, okay, I am in such a dark place right now, and I'm either going to come out of this with my certification and my career intact, or I'm not. And if I'm not, then who am I? You know? So it was like the unknown that was the scariest part, because the litigation took so long, and it was like, you know, a year and a half that I was just in that dark place, that I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I'm doing next. And I'm such a planner, and I'm such like a goal getter, that I'm like, I have these goals, and I have these timelines, and I have these things that I want to do, and these, you know, challenges that I'm going to overcome. But this is just like this limbo land that I'm stuck in right now. So I was just in a dark place wondering what's next, right? So eventually I just got to a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't just be so angry and so bitter, and I can't be so, you know, depressed about this. I have to come out of this. I have to just start doing things for myself and just living my life, because life is short. And at the end of the day, what's that going to matter if, you know, I'm just being sad all the time about it. So that's when I went to work for the PI company that I had mentioned, and that work was awesome. And the group of people that I worked with were so great, and I was able to relate to them on a lot of levels, just in being wronged by an agency that you worked for prior. And it was nice to like be around other people who had gone through similar stuff and have their support. And I knew they had my back, and it was really encouraging. And then when I got out of that line of work, I just realized, like, I've always had photography. Photography has always been there for me. That's not something that somebody else can take away from me. That's not something that anyone else can, you know, hold over my head or define me as. Like, that's something that I get to put myself into, that, you know, I get to take my identity and my character traits and things I believe in and that I think are important, and I get to bring that into my job. I don't have to bring my job into my life and make my life all about my job anymore. So that was like really a turning point for me, when I kind of like had that epiphany. Like, no, I'm going to run my life how I want to run it. I'm going to run my business. It's not going to run me. And I'm going to live life on my terms, like life by design. That is how I want to live my life. So,
that's interesting that you got the other perspective going on the defense side.
Yeah.
I would have to imagine that was like a big like paradigm shift in your head of like, oh wait, it's not like this. to be able to see both of those sides.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect, right? You know that. You
Yeah.
know that there's good on both of those sides, but there's bad stuff on both of those sides as well.
Absolutely.
But for you to be able to live in that and see that, I imagine that was part of kind of your whole like perspective change, and like, whoa, life's not what I really thought it was.
Yeah, like life is so much more. So really the perspective shift happened for me when I realized what my chief was doing to me. I was like, what? Like, how is this happening? This person that I trusted, that I was learning from, that was essentially my mentor, turns out he's a total liar and he's not a good person like I thought he was. And people had warned me about it, and I kind of turned a blind eye. I was like, no, give him a chance. He's a good guy, whatever. But no, it's not the case. And when I finally realized what was happening, I was like, wow, if he's doing this, like who else is doing stuff like this? And if he's capable of this and getting away with this kind of stuff, then what else am I not seeing? That's when my eyes really opened. And then my attorney actually is the one who got me set up with the private investigations company that I worked for. And once I already had that mindset at that point in time of, okay, not all law enforcement is good. It is not the end all be all. There are bad cops out there. There's bad policing, and there are people who are getting screwed over by the system, myself included, right? So when I went to work for criminal defense, I was like really gung-ho about it. I'm like, you know what? I believe you. This is happening, and this is not fair, and this is, a total injustice, and you're not getting fair treatment, and let's work through this. And it was like almost like just beating your head against a wall, because you're met with just so much resistance, and it's so hard to change any part of the system. Yeah, it was a huge perspective shift for me, and it really opened my eyes to a lot of different issues that I didn't even know were issues before. And at the end of the day, it was still ugly work. It was like not the most rewarding. It was really hard to make any kind of an impact, and there's just so many different steps and processes involved in everything that you kind of just have to reel it back in and focus on just making a difference for you and your client. So like when I would go visit people in jail, it wasn't always about the big picture and like righting all these wrongs and fighting injustice. In that moment, it was about how can I make this person feel more comfortable about this really bad situation that they're in, whether they did it, whether they didn't, whether I believed them or whether I didn't. In that moment, it was my job to like do a proper investigation, like make sure they're getting fair treatment, and to make them feel better about their situation, and to help them make informed decisions about what to do next with their lives or their offers or whatever. So I really like became more of a people person in that way, that I was like, these are just everyday people, and everybody has struggles, and everybody's going through something. And I've seen people, do a lot of time in prison and come out with amazing careers as artists or whatever, some other skill that they have that they really honed in on. And it's really nice to see people go through really dark stuff and turn it around and make something really good of themselves. So yeah,
When did the fitness journey begin?
So that probably about a year and a half ago, I was like, I felt like I was getting my mental health in check. I was happy. Spiritually, I was like, making my chakras align, all that. I was just like on this whole path of just self-improvement and self-work. And I'm like, okay, I should probably get back in the gym too, right? But I felt like at the time I was just so scatterbrained with making decisions about all these other parts of my life that it was hard for me to want to go into a gym and like have to do that homework and think, okay, what should I do so I'm not wasting my time? So I hired a personal trainer. Best decision I ever made. He really like held me accountable and helped me to stay focused and have a plan, and one that I didn't have to come up with. I just had to show up and do the work. And that was nice because I was so used to having to map everything out myself. It was nice to like be able to rely on someone else to map it out for you. And then you start seeing results and you're like, okay, I trust this person. This is working. I trust the process. And it was really good for like my mental health, especially because I got to like shut off all other distractions and go in there for like an hour and just work hard and challenge myself. And that was all about me. It wasn't about anything else, anybody else. It was about me. And I think everybody needs that. Like, I'm a huge proponent for that.
You know, I made the comment out there to you. I was like, Adrian would probably love, like, you know, because you talked about getting credentialed and becoming a trainer. And I was like, yeah, Adrian likes working out with other people. I haven't. But then I've been thinking to myself, the reason I probably don't is because I don't want to be held accountable like that. But that's probably why I've never seen the results that I would want.
That's why. It's totally why.
I probably need to.
It's so
have
hard.
that.
Like, you can go in the gym and, you know, you're like, today I'm going to work upper body. And then, you know, your next day you're like, I'm kind of sore. Maybe I'm not going to go. Oh, something came up. I can't go. But when somebody is like, you're paying that person to be there and they're expecting you to be there, it brings a whole nother level of accountability. You're like, oh crap, I have to show up because otherwise they're going to be sitting there waiting for me, or I wasted their time, or I paid for this and I just wasted X amount of dollars. So
well,
sometimes that's like the kick in the butt that people need, is like, oh, okay, somebody is expecting me there. And eventually you expect yourself to be there.
Right.
Eventually it's like, I'm going to show up not just for them now. I'm going to start showing up for me. And once you start doing that and your mentality shifts, it becomes like an addiction. You're like, nope, this is my time. This is the hour in the day that I get to shut off everything else, challenge myself, just be lost in my thoughts. Whether you put your headphones on or you're working with a trainer and they're just pushing you and counting your reps, that's for you. You're doing it for you, and your future self will thank you for that, because it's a long process. It doesn't happen overnight, and you have to just be really consistent. And when you're not motivated, just fall back on your discipline and be consistent, because there are days, you know, when you're like, I don't want to get up and do that. I'd rather stay in bed today, or I have so much on my mind. But at the end of the day, what is best for you? That's what you got to figure out. And you're like, okay, I know this is what's best for me, so I'm just going to show up and do the work.
What I haven't thought about, because I'm like you, I map out everything and then I remap it out and then I remap it out again. My mind never stops. It's why I have trouble sleeping. It just never, ever stops. But I haven't really thought about a trainer in terms of, so here's my mentality. Hey, I'm a former college athlete. Like, I've been in the gym before. I kind of know what to do. But I don't do it. But then I'm like, why would I pay someone to kind of do something that I kind of know what to do anyways? Which that's not really true either. There's a ton of education and whatnot that goes into becoming a trainer. But that hasn't been valuable enough for me to want to hire a trainer. But thinking about hey, I wouldn't have to think about anything. They would just build the program for me. I just have to show up. That's something that I haven't really like thought about. Like, boy, that would be nice, because I'm very controlling. I don't really let anyone dictate anything for me. I'm dictating it. But in that arena, that could be nice.
It is very nice.
I'm just going to show up and try to give my best effort. And you do all the thinking right now.
Yeah, it's so nice because, you know, especially as an entrepreneur, your mind is always going. You're always thinking about, what's my next move? What am I going to do? How am I going to, you know, support my clients through this? How am I going to make money doing that? You know, you just always going and always thinking. And sometimes you put yourself on the back burner. You're like your own mental health, your spiritual health, your physical health gets put on the back burner because you're so busy thinking about how you can provide for everybody else. Right? So at the end of the day, if your cup is empty, you're not going to be able to pour into other people. And that's what I kind of learned over the last couple of years, is that I have to prioritize myself and my health in all those realms so that I can continue to pour into other people. Because if I'm on empty, then I'm not giving my clients my best. I'm not giving my family and my friends my best. And just giving myself that 1 to 2 hours a day where it's like, this is my time, has been so beneficial. And I wish more people would do it. And especially, you know, people who have jobs where they're having to be creative all the time and think of new ways to do things, it's hard to think about what am I going to do when I go to the gym. I don't even want to think about that. I want to shut my brain off. So having a trainer, you just show up and they're like, all right, we're going to do squats. Get over here. They load the plates on. You're just like, all right, I'm going to get to work. So it's so beneficial. People don't want to pay for it. They're like, I can do that myself. It's like, you can, but will you?
But you don't.
Yeah.
Just like I don't. This week, I was telling Adrian that it is not easy being creative all the time.
It's not.
Because there's a lot of times where you don't feel
there's
like
creative
being
burnout. It's
creative.
a thing.
And especially with this in the past couple months. And I mean, I was telling you earlier, this week I've kind of almost hit kind of a creative spirit wall this week. Just because I'm doing a lot of different stuff right now and mentally like, well, how can I make insurance seem kind of not like insurance or be creative with that or but to just go somewhere and I'm gonna listen to some music, you load the plates, tell me what to do, tell me if I'm doing the proper technique. Just like Danny and Joel, I was like felt so convicted because I don't have a primary and I'm like, I should have a primary physician and I don't have that and I'm an adult. And then like I'm sitting here like thinking, ugh, and I know me and Adrian will talk about this later. I know she'll come work out with you. I'll be more of a stubborn about that.
We'll make her drag you along. Be like, shut your brain off and just listen. Just do what we say. So much easier that way.
Do you want to like give any specifics about the gym or?
Yeah, so I work out in Kaiser. My mom owns a gym. It's called the Warrior Element. It's like a private little strength training gym, and it's great. We have a handful of trainers who work in there. We have somebody who does classes in the mornings. They're like HIIT workout classes with a little bit of weightlifting, and there's a lot of females in those classes. And then we have some midday trainers who train people throughout the day or early evenings. And each trainer kind of brings a little bit different flair, which is nice because some people click better with this style or some people are wanting to see these results versus this. So there's like a trainer for everyone there. And it's a really nice, like just small little community of people. And our trainers are really good. So I'm currently studying to get my NASM certification. But like I had mentioned to you, it is a very long process. And I did not realize how lengthy like the studying was going to be and how long the test was going to be. So that does take a lot longer than I thought it would. But it's a goal that I have by the end of the year to have that so that I can start marketing myself as a personal trainer and taking on new clients and bringing like my own flair to the gym because I've learned everyone else is kind of niche and they're all so valuable, but I think there are some that are lacking that I can bring to the table. And I've just kind of fallen in love with this fitness journey that I've been on, and I've had so many people ask me about it and ask me if I'm training or if they can work out with me or ask me to write them online plans and whatnot. And I'm like, you know what? Here's another one of those things that I didn't really have to try so hard to get, that kind of just fell into my lap, that I'm good at, that people want to see me doing it and I enjoy doing it. So I'm going to do it because those are the things that I'm best at. And I'm excited about it.
Is this gym, I'm trying to think how to ask this, can people have a membership and just go work out? Or is this something where you have to have one of the trainers that are working there? Yeah,
so our trainers are there pretty much full time. We always have somebody there. And whether it's small group training, one-on-one training, or just an open gym. Like on Fridays, I run open gym. So anybody can come work out on Fridays at whatever time I designate. Like today, for example, it's 2:00. So we're going to have, a handful of people there at 2:00. One of our trainers is going to come in and lead us in like some stretching and mobility. Then we do a little HIIT workout that's like anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. And then we do just some strength training, and whatever people want to work on, they can work on. Other times it's like mostly just when a trainer is there, somebody can come, because it's not really like there's no like key fob that you can just have to
Okay.
open the door at any time.
Okay.
It's like a private gym.
Okay.
So personal training for the most part, but there's small group classes as well. And there's a time for everybody. So whether you're an evening person or a really early morning person, there's a trainer there who can accommodate those times. So, it is on Instagram, The Warrior Element, and anybody can reach out to it and drop an inquiry about what their goals are, or what kind of times of day works for them. And then from that Instagram page, we will direct them to a trainer that would probably be a really good fit for them.
Okay. So that's how you would get in contact, is check out the Instagram.
Yeah.
And then DM or whatnot. And
Yeah. Yep. Like I said, it's pretty small, pretty private, but it's a really great community. A lot of people don't like the, big franchise box gym type places. They're like, it's intimidating, especially for females who've never done weightlifting before. They walk into a gym and they're like, oh my gosh, all these people in here moving all this heavy weight. I don't even know what to do. Should I pick up a 5-pound dumbbell? Should I pick up a 45-pound barbell? They don't know. So it's intimidating. And so I think our gym is a really good place for people to come and learn in a comfortable and private setting. And just kind of like get familiar with gym equipment, get familiar with how to program workouts, how to set their splits for the week. And it's proven to be really beneficial for a lot of people.
I'll be honest about something. I don't love the big gyms either, because I've always been the not strongest guy in my friend group. And I've always thought if I ever got serious about training and trying to like lift again, I would want it in a smaller setting, because I've actually always been, that's been an insecurity of mine, is every hoop team I've played on, I'm typically upper body, not squats or whatnot, legs fine, but typically upper body, always the weakest dude. And so that's always been kind of like an intimidation thing for me. And I have thought, like, if I ever got serious, I'd want it to be in a smaller setting. Which, seeing some of your posts, I was like, man, it's just like her and dude or whatnot in there. And I'm like, if I was going to get serious about it, that's the setting I would want.
So when are you coming? So when are you going to come train with us?
I'm trying to talk myself into it.
Sounds like you're just about there.
Maybe I'll just swing by it too and check it out.
Yeah.
I'll text Adrian and see what she's doing. It'd be nice just to kind of see.
Yeah.
I know she'll do it.
Yeah.
I know she'll do it. I'm old and knowing what it takes to get back into things, but I need to do it.
Yeah. It's so good for you. It just like makes you feel good. It gives you something to challenge yourself. And like I said, it's just your future self will thank you for it.
Yeah.
So I'm the strongest that I've ever been. I just turned 33 and I'm like, wow, I can move heavy weight. Even like back when I was doing CrossFit years ago, I wasn't this strong. So it's really just about consistency, showing up for yourself and challenging yourself. I love it. And most people love it. Once they get into the groove, they really love it. So,
Oh, I was going to ask, Arizona, not that you have to mention what you're starting. What's your connection to Arizona?
My parents are kind of dual living between Oregon and Arizona, and I've got some other family out there, and there's a lot of Oregonians moving to Arizona, believe it or not. So it's just a really nice place. It's warm and dry almost year round. And
What area?
We are out in Surprise. It's just to like the northeast of Phoenix.
Okay.
So Phoenix, if you think of Phoenix, it's kind of like Portland, right? And then you have Hillsborough and Beaverton and Gresham and all these other little cities right outside of there. That's like Phoenix. And then you have Surprise and Peoria and Scottsdale and Tempe and Chandler and Mesa and Glendale and all these other little places right around there. So we'll be right on the outskirts of Phoenix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Starting a business out there. Really excited about it. I will talk more about that once we get it a little more underway, but it's something totally different.
Okay.
It's not fitness.
Okay.
It is not photography.
Okay.
It is not law enforcement.
Okay.
But it's something else I'm really good at and I'm passionate about, and like that I think it's going to be really fun. So
You got a lot of things going.
I do, but that's like the entrepreneur spirit, you know. I don't think I was ever meant to work for somebody else because I just got to do what I got to do.
Which is crazy with how you thought you'd be locked
Right.
into a profession.
Right. With like a whole chain of command above you and all this rank and file. Like now looking back on that, I'm like, wow, that just was not for me. I was really good at my job. I really loved it. Like the community that I served was amazing. It was really fulfilling. Granted, a lot of people don't like you, but you know, that's just the nature of that job. At the end of the day though, like I know I was making a difference in a lot of people's lives, just everything from small stuff to big stuff to the pep talks I'd give them on the way to jail. Like I didn't have enemies, and I really loved it and I was really good at it. And maybe that's like what I thought my life was going to be, but it took a whole turn and now here I am and I'm really happy. And I know that where I'm at now is not where I would be if I was still doing that. I wouldn't have the free time that I have. I wouldn't have the relationships that I have. I wouldn't have time for traveling and being so present with my kids. That's really important to me. And yeah, I feel like, you know, when you're in a really dark place, you can either be planted or you can be buried. I felt like I was being buried, but I didn't realize I was just being planted. And now here I am blooming and I'm loving my life. And I think that, I hope that other people can relate to that. That
Absolutely.
If they're like in this really dark place, they realize like, okay, I feel like I'm being buried alive. Really, I'm just being planted. Like something better is coming. I just have to grow through this. Like grow through what you go through, you know?
Yeah, as we're talking about this, so for people listening or watching, Lacey and I have never met before other than today. But I was just thinking what I know of you is now, today, and I would never picture you as a cop.
Is it the neck tattoo?
Well...
That came after.
Yeah. Besides the markings, if I didn't see that, just with what you've talked about, like what you get excited about when you're talking, the part of like I'm making my own schedule, all those things, I would be like, the last thing you should ever do is go try to be a police officer. That's
Yeah,
what
right?
I would think about you now.
Yeah, because it's so restrictive. And I feel like I've said a lot of negative things about law enforcement, but, you know, so many of my friends and family are law enforcement, and nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop.
Yep.
So there are so many amazing cops out there who are out there doing it for the right reasons, who are doing good by people, who are amazing supervisors, who are wanting to make a difference in their communities. But just with any other profession or any other aspect of life, there are bad people too with bad intentions who do it for the wrong reasons. And unfortunately, I came across a few of those in my time, and that is what kind of brought me to where I'm at now.
Man, good thing you did, huh?
Yeah, good thing. Good thing I went through all that dark crap, because now here I am thriving.
You know, I mean, but
You
some
know,
of
it's
your
like a,
temperament,
you know-
I don't know if you ever would have.
Yeah.
If I could have came to you when you're a cop and I'm like, hey, look, listen, like I show you your current Instagram feed right now and be like, this is what you could be doing. I show you your photography stuff. This is what you could be doing. I don't know if you would have chose that.
No, I would have been like, how on earth do I get there? Like, how do I do that? Here I am. I'm stuck in this. This is all I know. You know, how do I get there? You just grow through it. You just got to go. And I feel like a lot of people probably feel stuck where they're at. But you just got to start making moves and start living for yourself and living intentionally and not let your career define who you are. Because at the end of the day, without that career, who are you? What makes you happy? What do you like to do? And a lot of people don't even know how to answer that.
Did you think you could make a career out of photography?
No, I didn't even know, like, people do make careers out of that. You know, I got my senior portraits done, and there was like 3 main people who did senior portraits around this area. And I thought, oh, that's all they do. They just take pictures of people graduating. And when I was in high school, I started doing photography for my friends and my family. And then I started doing other families that I knew, and people would reach out to me and say, hey, I saw you did so-and-so's photos. Can you do ours? I'm like, sure, $50, you know, didn't think anything of it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm making such great money charging $50 for a session. Now I charge $500. So it's like, you don't realize like how much you're worth when you're first starting out. But I've been doing it a long time, a very long time. Lots of trial and error, like I said, lots of learning, lots of dealing with different types of people. And now I'm to a point where I get to be really selective about what I shoot. I don't have to say yes to everything that presents itself to me. If I feel like it's not in alignment with who I am as a person, what I believe in, what I'm passionate about, then I just pass it along. I say, you know, here's a handful of other photographers who might be a better choice for you. But I take on a lot, and it's all stuff that I really, really enjoy. So I love what I do. I love where I'm at. And I don't think I would be here. I mean, I know I would not be here had I not gone through all that dark stuff with my first career.
Yeah.
So,
was it difficult to start to value your photography? Like you just said, like $50, now I'm 500. Was that difficult to start to be like, I'm worth X amount?
Yeah, it was. And it's like really intimidating to be like, here I am giving my all to this. I'm spending hours making sure these are perfect for this client. And I feel like I'm worth more than this, but I'm scared to charge more than this. So that shift also came with me just diving into this and being like, okay, I am in high demand. People want to work with me. Supply and demand, like the supply's got to go up, right? I can't keep doing this for pennies on the dollar when somebody else who's not as good as me, not as experienced, and doesn't have the heart like I do is doing it for more. It's not about the money for me, but it's about valuing myself to a point where I feel like I'm charging my worth. And my clients have no problem with that. They see my worth, and it's so amazing. And it's like really fulfilling when they don't even bat an eye, because I'm like, oh, by the way, this is how much this session costs. I'm like kind of nervous to tell them, because to me, I'm like, that's a lot of money, you know, like, but they're like, okay, no problem. Thank you. You want me to Venmo it to you? I'm like, yeah, thanks. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Like, okay, I feel my worth. So it took me a while to like get there. Right.
Yeah.
And, now I just try and be really fair and transparent with my pricing, because I've seen other photographers who don't really know the business side of it charge all over the place. Like they'll be posting something in, say, a bridal group that's like, hey, I'm doing a wedding special, $1,000 for 8 hours. And then in the same group, they're posting, here's my pricing, $4,000 for 8 hours. And you're like, oh, that's not fair to the person paying you $4,000 who sees you posting that you're only charging this other person $1,000.
Right.
Like that's not good business. Right. So I learned a lot by just observing mistakes I saw other people making and looking at it from a client or a consumer's point of view. Like, what would I want? How would I want to be treated as a client? What kind of prices would I pay for this kind of work or this kind of job? You know, so I really made it not so much about myself, but about me. If I were a client, what would I want? And once I started looking at it like that, I'm like, okay, yeah, I am worth this. My clients have no problem paying this. Okay, this is going to be my consistent pricing. This is how I'm going to do things. And it took a few years to get to that point, but I'm there now. I'm really consistent with what I'm delivering, with how I deliver it, with how I schedule, how I book, how I price. And people know what they can expect from me. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to have a shoot with Lacey. I have no idea what she's going to charge me. I don't even know what she's delivering me. I don't know what her edits are going to look like. It's consistent across the board. And I think that's done wonders for my business. So yeah, I educate people on that too. Like photographers who are like, how do I price? What should I do? What am I worth? I'm like, well, let's look at your stuff. But I mean, the opportunities for education in photography is endless. because like I said, you can educate them on business. You can educate them on like how to price themselves, and you can educate them on how to find a niche. You can educate them on how to edit. You can sell your own presets. You can make mastermind courses for people. That's like a digital product that they can download over and over again. And you're just making passive income off of that. So it's really opened a lot of doors for a lot of different funnels of income for me. And I'm really thankful for that.
Someone that was on here before, he has a foundation, and actually we were talking kind of offline. And he's trying to put together here in Salem like an academy where it will offer multiple things. For example, he was like, Trav, maybe you're like the podcast guy and you're teaching the younger kids how this all works and how to do podcasts, just an educational thing. And so I was thinking, as that goes down the road, like it would be cool to bring in someone that could say, here's how photography works and for kids. And
yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'll have to loop you in on that as that evolves.
Yeah, I do. I love like any kind of, and I think every job that I've had has fallen back on this, like coaching, helping other people, building rapport with them, having connections with them, whether that was working in law enforcement. I'm still helping people. I'm building rapport with them, connections with them, helping them through something. Fitness, same thing. Photography, same thing. So it's kind of like that's who I am, and I can bring that into all of these jobs that I have. All these jobs that I have don't define who I am. I define who I am. Yeah. So I think that's the important thing to learn, and how to separate yourself from your career is like, who are you and what do you bring into your career? Not your career is you and is who you are. Because without your career, who are you?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you're doing multiple things. And so, I mean, it's kind of like me. I mean, people will ask my wife, like coworkers or whatnot, and they're like, what's your husband do? And she's like, I don't really know what do you want me to tell them that you do? Like, do you do a little construction with your dad? You do insurance? You're doing this podcast thing?
You're like, I'm a jack of all trades. Just tell them that.
But like, it kind of helps to not define yourself, because I'm like,
don't limit yourself.
I'm not an insurance guy. I do insurance, but like, I would never say like I'm an insurance guy.
Yeah.
It's weird being like, I'm a podcast person. Like, it's weird to do something that you've never done and then like try to own it and be like, well, I guess I'm a podcast person now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that can be difficult for people that are doing, like Adrian's a teacher, right? And I could see how that would be difficult if it's like, well, that's what I am, like I'm a teacher, and getting wrapped up in that, or I'm a cop and this is, what I do, as opposed to, well, I do a lot of different things. I just happen to be policing. Yeah. So I could see how that would be.
Most cops that I know who are, healthy, physically, mentally, spiritually healthy, they all have something else on the side that they do. Like some kind of a creative outlet, something that they're passionate about, whether it's a hobby or it's something that they make money doing on the side. I think it's just really important for everyone, not just cops, but everyone to have something like that, whether you're just selling insurance and then you do podcasts on the side.
Right.
Or, you're a teacher and then you're like a fitness coach on the side, or a volleyball coach, basketball coach, something like that. You got to take who you are and find another niche, like something that you can branch out with that you're passionate about. That's not necessarily all about the income, but it's about like just adding value to your life, right? Because you're not always going to have value from your 9 to 5. You're just not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
This has been,
pleasure.
We've never met before. So this is the first time for me to interview someone I had never met before.
Yeah. And now you're going to come get in the gym. Adrian's going to come get in the gym. We're all going to be friends. It's going to be great.
I know 2 of those things are for sure. We will be friends. Adrian will be in the gym.
You don't know about you yet. We'll get you in there. I'll set you up with my trainer. He's great.
I've seen photos of him.
Yeah.
Man.
He knows what he's doing. He's
Man,
good.
I'd love to
He's
have
really
some
good.
abs like that
Yeah.
and shoulders like that.
Yeah. So back to your whole, what you see on social media, there's a struggle behind everything, you know?
Yep.
So what you see on social media, you got to know that there's a whole lot of layers to pull back. And working with a trainer, you learn all about those layers too. So I can tell you that training is really beneficial and you might like it. So you should give it a try.
Could you imagine if I said this when we were messaging earlier this week, and then me and Danny also talked about this a little bit on that podcast, but how everyone just posts their highlights.
Right. Yeah.
But could you imagine if there was like a different Instagram, or like just called a
Just
different
for the
name, but it
low
was
lights.
just for the low lights?
Yeah.
All you
Oh
just
my
like,
gosh. I feel like that's Facebook though. Like Facebook is like the lowlights where everybody goes and complains and posts sad stuff all the time. So like I escape Facebook and I go to Instagram. I'm like, this app is too depressing right now. I'm going to switch to Instagram and look at some highlights.
that's kind of true, honestly. There's a
really
lot of like
is.
complaining on Facebook. Mm-hmm. But like, yeah, could you imagine? It's like, just got a DUI.
Lost my car. Like,
Got
lost my
fired
license.
today. Don't know how I'm gonna
Yeah.
pay rent.
Yeah.
But it would be an interesting thing
Yeah.
if you got to see both
Yeah.
of those.
It just comes down to
sides.
like making sure that you're transparent in your posts. Like, especially if you're like on a level of influencing other people, make sure they know your struggles too. Because that can be discouraging to be watching somebody and seeing them doing so great. And you're like, man, why can't I do that? Like, I'm not there yet. And you're like, well, you're not seeing all the struggles. Like, you're just seeing the highlights. So just always remember that. Like, don't compare your life and your struggles to somebody else's highlight reel, because it'll never compare, right? And on social media, you can totally control the narrative. You can control what people see and how they see it. So there's a lot of people who don't post any of their lowlights on there, right? But I think to build rapport with people and to get people to respect you and to believe in your authenticity, you have to share those lowlights too. You have to show them like the human in you. So
that is a main layer of why I'm doing this.
yeah.
Being a business owner, and I've not been a business owner. I've been a business owner. Have a lot of friends that are business owners. But it initially came out of the thought of kind of just the funny comment of it must be nice. Mm-hmm. It's easy to see a lot of my contractor buddies, like they have multiple trucks running around, and it's like, oh, it must be nice. You have all these trucks and employees. And so a layer of this has been trying to get past that initial, it must be nice, and who is this person? Mm-hmm. And what has their struggle been? And you know, there was a point where they only had one truck, not 20 or 50 or 100.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? And just humanizing it and making it relatable. Because I think when you can make it relatable, then you start to have people's attention. And then you might be able to encourage or give hope of like, well, I could do that. Mm-hmm. Well,
And you earn their respect too.
Yeah.
You know, I went through a lot of that. Like, I didn't grow up with money. I didn't grow up with rich parents. My parents are both also entrepreneurs. They worked so hard. They worked all the time, and they had me when they were really young. So growing up, I watched them do everything that they possibly could to always be present in my life and my siblings' lives. I have a brother and a sister who are younger, and they did, you know, everything they could to make sure that we had clothes on our back and school supplies and yummy lunches packed and all of that. So I watched them like struggle and come up and make something of themselves. And a lot of people now will say, oh, well, it must be nice. That comment, that's like one of my hugest pet peeves. It must be nice. It's like, it is. It's really nice to work really hard and then reap the benefits of your hard work. That's what's really nice. So
I had someone recently, when I was kind of like talking about that, they were like, that would be a great name for a podcast. It
that
must
would
be
be
nice.
Must be nice. Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. Cause it's a thing, you know,
There's so many different places you could take that.
and that's a mindset,
Yeah.
you know, that's a mindset. It must be nice. Finish the sentence. It must be nice to have worked so hard.
Right.
And now you're getting to reap those benefits.
Right.
So,
To have sacrificed
Yeah.
Yeah.
To take risks, to, you know, all those things. Must be nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, must be nice.
It must be. Thanks, Lacey.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Must be nice.
Must be nice.